Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thanks so much for being here Friday, September 19th, and we have got Jaguars and Texans matchups to watch. First divisional game of the 2025 regular season for the Jaguars and for the Texans. Jaguars trying to get to 1-0 in the division. Texans fall to 0-1, and then Jags also trying to get to 2-1 on the season while putting the Texans in an 0-3 hole to start 2025. You also have the Colts and Titans going at it. Colts trying to get to 3-0, Titans trying to get their first win. So big AFC South divisional weekend here early on in the season. I'm excited to get into it. We've got matchups to watch between the Jags and Texans. This is one of my favorite shows every single week, so really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, help support the channel and look good while doing it. Really appreciate y'all's support. So starting it off, this is kind of the low-hanging fruit. Everyone who has the ability to block or a blocking assignment versus Aziz Al-Shaair. I want Brenton Strange. I want Johnny Munt. I want the offensive tackles, the guards. I want people to hit Aziz Al-Shaair. And now, I do not want the Jaguars to be so focused on Aziz Al-Shaair and what happened last year that they lose sight of execution and focusing on themselves. And I don't think they are. Based on everything that we're hearing coming out of the building, it is all about this year. It's all about this game, the future, moving forward. It's not about looking into the past. But I still have a little bit of a hard time believing some of these guys, while they're saying the right things right now, aren't going to be thinking about that a little bit. That was a violent, dirty play on your franchise quarterback. And yeah, I would imagine Brenton Strange, Walker Little, Anton Harrison, if they can get a piece of this guy or the whole thing, they're going to try to put him on his butt. So I'm excited to see that. Another big matchup to watch, really. It's Brian Thomas Jr. versus Derek Stingley, and beyond like all the BTJ trying to figure it out mentally, not being afraid of taking a big hit, etc. Brian Thomas Jr. versus Derek Stingley has been really fun the last two times they've played. Brian Thomas Jr. has had a really good time in the divisional matchups during his short career so far, during his rookie year. I mean, he balled out against divisional opponents pretty much every single game. And when you look at what he did against Houston last year, in week 4, he could have had an even bigger game. Trevor did miss him down the field once, but he was, 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown in week 4. That was his first really big. I mean, he had 94 yards against the Browns, but that was on 2 catches. It was a couple deep, big shots down the field. That was his first, more than 5 catch game. That was really impressive game for him against Stingley and company. And then in week 13, he had 4 catches on 10 targets, which isn't great efficiency, but he had 76 yards and a touchdown again. So he, even though it wasn't like the most efficient performance, it was another big day. So Brian Thomas Jr. versus Derek Stingley. I mean, Derek Stingley is arguably the best corner in football right now. He pretty much shut down Mike Evans last week. Mike Evans and Brian Thomas Jr., while Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame player, unbelievably consistent, huge frame, not the same skill set as Brian Thomas Jr., so it's a different matchup. Brian Thomas Jr. has a lot of the length that Mike Evans has, but has a lot more speed, quickness, fluidity. So watching those two guys, if Brian Thomas Jr. does come into this game with, kind of the right focus, that could be a great matchup to watch. Brian Thomas Jr. versus Derek Stingley. And you can't completely eliminate him going over the middle because you got to be able to go over the middle in this league. But maybe get him some targets outside first. Get him going on some short to intermediate stuff, maybe some deep shots down the field, and see if you can get it going that way. But, I am glad I'm not the coach to have to try to figure out exactly how to get Brian Thomas Jr. re-engaged on game day from what we saw last week. And I do have a lot of confidence in BTJ still figuring it out. Now, if you see what happened last week for a second straight week, that's a big problem. But for many reasons, Brian Thomas Jr. versus Derek Stingley is absolutely a matchup to watch. Jaguars offensive tackles, Walker Little at left tackle, Anton Harrison at right tackle versus the Texans edge rushers. This is a really interesting matchup. I mean, even if these weren't two divisional opponents that were very familiar with each other, and, 4 players here, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Walker Little, and Anton Harrison, who all have familiarity against each other, it would still be a fun matchup to talk about, just because Anton Harrison has been money this year. He has been so good, both in the run game and the pass game. And Walker Little has been good in the run game. He had a bad outing last week against Trey Hendrickson. So you're like, oh man, can't block Trey Hendrickson. Danielle Hunter's going to have a field day, because Hunter does line up primarily on the defensive right side against the offensive left tackle, and Will Anderson primarily on the defensive left side against the offensive right tackle. So those are the two matchups you're going to see more often than not, is Anderson versus Harrison and Hunter versus Walker Little. These guys shut those guys down last year. Walker Little did a great job against Danielle Hunter last time they played, and Anton Harrison did a great job against Will Anderson. Their pass rush was ineffective. The Jaguars did not lose that game, either game last year, because of the pass rush. So that's something to watch. And Cam Robinson, I believe, did start the first game last year against the Texans. But in Week 13, Walker Little was the starter at left tackle, and he played very well. So let's see here. Just confirming that. Yeah, it was Cam Robinson last year against Danielle Hunter, and Cam Robinson had a great game. Great game. Didn't allow a single pressure against the Texans last year. So I'm just fascinated to see that. Like, obviously, it's a different offensive system for the Jaguars, but it's the same players. And for the most part, they've been performing at a higher clip, higher level. You've never seen Walker Little perform quite as badly as he did last week against Trey Hendrickson. Sometimes Trey Hendrickson's just going to Trey Hendrickson, though, and there's nothing you can do about it, it feels like. But this is a big bounce-back opportunity for him against a familiar opponent. But these two dudes are unbelievable, Anderson and Hunter. Great pass rush duo. So that is going to be, get your popcorn ready sort of matchup, and they got to do a good job for Trevor Lawrence's sake, no doubt about it. And then you talk about Liam Coen versus DeMeco Ryans. The Texans' run defense has not been very good. I mean, it's not the worst in the league, but they're allowing like 4.5 yards a carry. Jaguars have been the best running game in football. They are dominating on the ground in a major way. I mean, it's been so fun to watch Travis Etienne, not only in space, but he's running with more confidence and decisiveness on the interior as well. And then Bashal Tutin, he's the future at running back position for the Jaguars, in my opinion. He's got the long speed. We haven't even really seen that yet. He's gotten in the open field a couple times, but what you've seen a lot of is the short area quickness, the decisiveness, the leg drive, explosive jump cuts. He's been a joy to watch. And then LeQuint Allen, the hammer, the guy who's going to run tough. He's going to get in there in pass protection and block his butt off. He'll contribute in the pass game as well. I have a hard time seeing the Texans doing a good job against the Jaguars' run game. I just do. I think that's a decided advantage for the Jaguars. Now, the Texans have a great pass defense. So I think Liam Coen's run game is going to outperform DeMeco Ryans' run defense. So then that makes it easier for the Jaguars' pass game to get going against that pass defense. It's still not going to be an easy task because the pass rushers are really effective. Haven't been so against the Jaguars, but you've got a lot of talent on the back end there. Kamari Lassiter has been limited, but I expect him to be able to play. Kalen Bullock is such a ball hawk center fielder. Jalen Petrie, it looks like he'll be able to play, and he's a little up and down, but he's a really good, versatile player. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they've just got a lot of talent back there in the secondary. But I think you can definitely target the linebackers in coverage. I think that Liam Coen is going to kind of have another day where it's like, okay, this Jaguars offense is for real. Now, what do they have to do? They have to get out of their own way, obviously. Can't have the can't have the pre-snap stuff that they've had, and can't have as many drops, and can't have the really bad chemistry between Lawrence and BT. But it's going to be fascinating to see that. And Anthony Campanile versus Nick Caley as well. I mean, Campanile has not been perfect. The Bengals clearly took advantage of him when he wanted to dial it up and bring the blitz and play single coverage. They did, but they had Jamar Chase. They had T. Higgins. T. Higgins really only had one nice play in that game. 2. He had a first down early where, Tyson Campbell's hand was right where it needed to be, and it didn't matter because T. Higgins' hands were so strong. But the real, the big play down the field where he just burned Tyson off the line. But Campanile, his run defense has been performing at a very, very high level. And I don't think the Texans present much of a threat as a running team right now. You did see that Nick Chubb touchdown, but this is the worst running team the Jaguars have faced so far, in my opinion, when you talk about the Texans compared to the Bengals last week and the Panthers the week before. And then passing-wise, Nick Caley's offense feels stagnant. It feels like it needs some experience. Nico Collins is the only guy out there with a lot of experience. You've got Xavier Hutchinson, which is a local kid. A shout out to him. Can't root for him this week, but I am a fan of Xavier Hutchinson. And then you have the 2 Iowa State young guys, the rookies. Christian Kirk is, looks like he's probably coming back. So it'll be interesting. I don't think they have a great receiving core right now. I really do think Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, combined with Nico Collins, combined with a healthy Christian Kirk, can be an effective receiver group, but it's not nearly as explosive as what you had last year with, Tank Dell before he got hurt, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs when he was healthy as well. So I think the Jaguars have the advantage against the Texans offense. I'm a big fan of CJ Stroud, but he's been put in a tough spot. We haven't even talked about their offensive line, which truly, DeMeco Ryans has talked about how their offensive line isn't making the same mistakes as last year. And I'm like, no, you're making all new ones. This Texans offensive line is not good. It is really, really not good. You look at what they've been doing in the run game, and it hasn't been impressive at all. And then in pass protection, you've got Laken Tomlinson at guard, who through 2 games has allowed 6 pressures and a sack. You've got Ariante Ursary, the rookie, starting at left tackle. He's allowed 6 pressures and 2 sacks. His pass pro efficiency is at 93.7. That is really bad. Titus Howard is a good player. Kudos to him. Ed Ingram played pretty well last week. I don't think that that's going to continue, honestly. That would surprise me a little bit. Cam Robinson had to play some at right tackle. I believe they had an injury. Is that right? Oh, he played left tackle against the Rams in week 1, and he did all right. And then we had, where is our rookie? Ariante Ursary, he played right tackle week 1, left tackle week 2. So they've got a lot going on with the offensive line, not looking great. Ursary did better last week against the Buccaneers than he did in week 1. Week 1 was really bad, but he still allowed a sack last week. So their offensive line, it's just, run blocking has been porous. The running backs behind the run blocking, not very impressive. The entire scheme, not been very impressive. So I think Anthony Campanile has an opportunity to get after it. Now, Jaguars special teams versus Houston special teams is a big one because I'm not worried about, Cam Little on the field goals or, Logan Cook punting the ball, but Houston has been dangerous on kick returns. They have been very good on kickoffs. The Jaguars have been the opposite. They've been very focused on that this week, kind of having some competition at returner. And then they've been needing to, kind of figure it out a little bit more with the kickoff just placement. I think their strategy there. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And then we kind of mentioned this before, but matchup like Nico Collins versus the Jaguars corners. I don't want the Jaguars to be in single coverage against Nico Collins very often. I don't think they should be. I don't think that's a winning strategy. But whenever the Jaguars are one-on-one with Nico, which is going to happen sometimes because Anthony Campanile wants to be aggressive, Tyson or Jarian or Travis or Buster Brown just don't get burned. If they start peppering Nico successfully, kind of how it was with Jamar Chase, where like Jamar Chase was just eating intermediate like all day. He wasn't like burning anyone deep down the field. He was just having success in that 10 to 15 yard range consistently. Figure that out if you're Campanile. Like, you can't let another receiver go 14 catches for 165 yards again. That just kills your defense. So you got to figure that out, and you got to make sure that whoever is out there, when you do go single coverage and you try to heat up the quarterback, just doesn't get burned off the line. So that's where I'm at with Jaguars and Texans matchups to watch. I'm excited for this football game, excited to see the Jaguars in their prowlers at home against a divisional rival, the Houston Texans, a team that the Jaguars have not beaten in Jacksonville since 2017. They've got to get this one. They've got to get this. Is it a must-win game? Probably not again. You know, at 1-1 to start the year, like is week 3 a must-win game? No, but it's a big one. It is a big one, early season matchup. So really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.